Well, before we get started, I want to say that my major takeaway from this episode was they did Frog Lady wrong. She needed a name.
Yeah, when I saw the subtitle and it said Frog Lady, I was like, that's interesting because they named the two X-Wing pilots, Carson and, what was it, Wood? I can't remember
Yeah.
the other X-Wing.
And Frog Lady had a lot more lines of dialogue than those X-Wing pilots. She deserved the name.
Listen, welcome everyone to Chapter 10, The Mandalorian Review from Dad to Dagobah. Sean, this is 2 weeks in a row we have recorded an episode.
I would say we've turned over a new leaf. We are ready to be serious YouTubers now.
Yeah, only for us to later on crash into an ice world planet and be run off by a whole bunch of spiders. Let me start by saying this. I was underwhelmed by this episode. Totally underwhelmed. I don't think I ever need to rewatch it. What exactly happened in this episode that mattered?
Um, that we know of right now, nothing.
Sure.
Now, I would say that I would have said the same thing about Chapter 5 last season, The Gunslinger, and then Chapter 9 this season kind of tied back into that a little bit. I still think you don't really need to watch The Gunslinger. You can just watch Chapter 9, the
Uh-huh.
out or what is it, The Marshal. This one is The Passenger. But I agree with you. I was underwhelmed, and everything I said last week about the season two premiere giving me hope that they're course correcting what I didn't like about season one was set on fire in chapter 10. Just like the Mandalorian's flamethrower, killing all those spiders in the cockpit. Those spiders were my season two hopes and dreams. Because a couple things. One, we went back to another relatively short episode. I'm like, all right, we're back to short episodes. But then at the end of the episode, I thought, I'm okay that it's a short episode because this felt like a long episode of
Yeah.
nothing happening. And it was another one of those episodes similar to season one that I don't understand what the purpose or the point was. I don't feel like we made any headway in the plot or the story. We didn't even make it to the planet that they're trying to get to see if there is a Mandalorian. At least leave us on a cliffhanger that they make it to the planet and there is a covert of Mandalorians there.
Yeah, I was upset that they left us just them drifting in space. Like, wow, okay. I mean, they are on the journey towards the Mandalorians, but again, we had another side track, just like we did last episode with the Crate Dragon. We have another epic side track.
I agree.
I think they're starting to milk out this Mandalorian. They're starting to be like, oh, season one was a hit. Oh, instead of 3 seasons, we should have 12 seasons. I mean, they're going to milk this thing.
Yeah, I was underwhelmed by the story progression, I should say. I guess you can always argue that in these episodes there are moments of character development, um, but I, I I'm gonna chalk this up to the weak episode of the season.
Let's hope.
Um, if we get to the end of the season and this is the weakest episode, I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. Can I just say the best part of the episode was the first 5 minutes? Him on the speeder bike and then encountering the other bounty hunters. That's the best part of the episode. Before the even title. I mean, anyway.
Yeah, it made me think at the first 5 minutes that it was going to be. It reminded me, okay, there are other bounty hunters out here looking for the child still, and Moff Gideon. Where's Moff Gideon? What happened to that guy with the dark saber? Like, when is he going to come back into play? And did he send those bounty hunters? I want some more. I want to get back to that type of
Yeah.
storyline.
I hope in a
But
couple of weeks we'll be laughing at ourselves thinking, oh, we were so naive after chapter 2. Look at all the stuff we got later. But man, you set us up. You had such a great first episode and such a great cliffhanger, and then you do nothing with it. You had a great cliffhanger at the end of the first season. You still haven't paid off anyway, and then we have a great cliffhanger, and then we're like, oh boy.
I mean, if you think about it, now we've left Tatooine without any answer or closure on seeing Tamora Morrison on Tatooine, presumably Boba Fett. So I know that that will come up later. I mean, there's no way that that never gets revisited, but I thought that we would
So
at
we're gonna
least,
go back to Tatooine.
yeah, we're going back to Tatooine. Why does everybody want to go back to Tatooine?
Can I
Um,
share with you something interesting I saw? Speaking of Boba Fett,
sure.
an interesting theory. I don't know if this was on Star Wars Explained or some other place, but they speculated that Boba Fett is a Tuscan Raider because on the last shot he has their gaffy stick on his back, and so they're thinking maybe he's with the Tuscans.
Hmm,
Because
that'd be
why else he
interesting.
had a gaffy stick? If anyway.
That'd be interesting. Well, here's another fun speculation for you. To try to make Chapter 10 feel relevant, I'm going to have headcanon for the rest of the season until proven wrong that Frog Lady and her husband are actually Jedi. All right?
Oh, I thought you were going to say Gungans.
What? No. I know what a Gungan looks like, Joseph. All right? They're Jedi. Did you see her doing those force frog leaps, getting away from those spiders?
Oh, speaking of which, can we just call this the bug episode? Because the freaking ant in the cantina, I mean, that's basically taken from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. You just take that ant costume and throw it into the cantina. I mean, okay, that kind of looks a little too Earth-like for me.
And isn't there
Um,
kind of an ant-like creature like that in A New Hope in the cantina? Or am I off? I think there's another triangle-shaped head alien in the cantina in A New Hope. I'd have to rewatch it, but
oh gosh, now I'm going to have to insert a clip here if there is. I don't know if there is. Anyway.
I can't see my thumbs with my green screen.
So we leave Tatooine. We have a frog lady. What was the stipulation on her eggs? They needed to be fertilized under the. What I didn't catch that part.
Yeah, I don't know if it's some sort of solstice or moon, the full moon or something of within on a certain planet. Anyway, the interesting part to me was that they couldn't travel through hyperspace or it'd kill the eggs.
Uh huh.
What nobody told them and no one told Pit Droid Lady is that um, the child is a genocidal maniac and is determined to be single-handedly wipe out that species and cause a mass extinction. Every time the child ate one of those eggs, I got anxiety. Like, can't the Mandalorian supervise the child a little bit better? Literally, this is the final posterity of this creature, Frog Lady. Her family line ends with these eggs. It's not like she has 1,000 of them in there. There's maybe 2 dozen, and I personally watched the child eat like 6 of them.
Yeah, and all Mandalorian does is stop that.
Yeah,
Okay, you want to go hang out by the eggs? That's fine. Stop that. Okay, go. Yeah. Oh, stop.
yeah, and I felt like John Favreau was trying to make light of it, trying to get laughs out of us. When I was like, he's killing, he's killing off this poor woman's family.
Oh. Let's talk about another interesting part is the X-wing part. That was cool. That
Yeah,
was interesting. Um, Dave Filoni makes another appearance. I don't know. I'm sure I'm supposed to know who the other guy is. Is he another Star Wars guy or is he an actor?
I didn't recognize him, but I wouldn't be surprised if he maybe is a director of one of the episodes this season or something.
Yeah. The chase through the ice was interesting. A lot of speculation that this planet was going to be Ilum. It looks like that wasn't the case. Yeah, interesting chase, and then we get to the crash landing. Do you have anything you want to say about the X-wing stuff?
No, I agree with you. It was interesting to see. I liked the banter back and forth. I like how Mando was like, oh, I don't know. I don't think I have that hardware. His ship is obviously very old, pre-Imperial, like Clone Wars era. And so he's using that as like, oh, that wasn't standard on these old vehicles that I have type of thing. And I also thought it was pretty cool. His evasive maneuvers, the way that he was trying to get away from him. I'm like, this is kind of cool to see some cool piloting happen. But he did all of that fancy work to fall, just free fall out of the sky and do all that pivot stuff. And then as soon as he goes through that trench, like the X-wings are there again. I'm like,
Yeah,
oh, I guess
I
they,
was like, oh, what was all that
guess he
for?
didn't lose him. They found him.
Oh,
I
it's like that Han Solo move when they're like, I know a few maneuvers, and the ship is just like still just kind of drifting lazily to the left. Like, oh, that's a good maneuver, Han.
I found it interesting to see these X-wing pilots in their roles with the New Republic because in the original trilogy, X-wing pilots were military personnel. And I feel like in The Mandalorian, we see them more as kind of like police officers
Mm-hmm.
or like highway patrolmen. And anyway, I understand that they were calling back to one of the episodes from the first season, that prison break episode when they're on the New Republic prison ship and stuff like that. Um, but I don't know why it didn't really get me excited that there was that connective tissue. I'm like, all right, they're referencing that episode.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
So
I,
he crash lands. We get to the ice planet, and I didn't quite get this, but did he just give up? Is that kind of what was happening? He was just like, "Well, I'm just going to sit here." I didn't understand why the frog lady had to do that big speech about, you're not keeping up your word. Like, the Mandalorian just, I didn't understand that.
I agree. I felt like it was kind of interesting that she got the robot to translate for her. That robot was from that prison break episode, obviously. Zero, I think, was his name. Um, so I mean, the fact that he was translating, I'm like, finally we can get some communication between these two because I was tired of the frog croaking and Mandalorian just being like, I don't know what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I agree with you. It wasn't a super compelling speech to me. Like, aren't Mandalorians supposed to keep their word? And all of a sudden he's like, you're right. I'm gonna fix this ship.
Well, Abby pointed out that he didn't keep his word earlier in the episode, where he gave the creature a jetpack and then took it back. I mean, fundamentally, that was a funny scene, and it kind of goes along with the child is witnessing a whole lot of bad things. And I think you mentioned this last week how you suspect maybe the child may go to the dark side. That could be a story point they're setting up here with the constant violence he's seen from the Mando.
Oh, I think the child will definitely drift toward the dark side. I mean, we've already seen him force choke
That's right. Yep.
Cara Dune in the first season, and I just feel like he's 50 years old, but relatively speaking, his childhood and adolescence has been filled with violence, uh, deception, criminal activity, and so a
Is it nature
disregard,
or nurture?
yeah, a disregard for authority. So I just feel like I'm not hopeful that the child is going to be some sort of hero Jedi light side force user, which I actually find more compelling and interesting. I would like to see what happens if
Just dark
there's
side Yoda.
yeah, there's a dark side Yoda. That's an interesting storyline that I want to see.
Does it take away from his cuteness if he's on the dark side, or does it make him even more cute?
Um, for me, the cuteness is kind of wearing off, to be honest with you.
Considering he's really not doing a whole lot in either of these episodes.
Yeah, this the only really cute part to me in this episode was when they are gonna go to sleep and he kind of cozies up to Mandalorian.
Oh, I thought when he snuck the last egg at the very end, that was
Yeah,
funny.
that was funny too. Yeah, I mean it's obviously still a very adorable little creature, but um, yeah, I think he'll be a dark side user for sure. The only other part of this episode that I have anything to say is the spiders and the spider scene. Can I just say, if
Go.
we were to insert clips right here, I would be inserting a montage of Harry Potter Aragog chase scene from the Chamber of Secrets and Return of the King,
Yes.
Lord of the Rings, Frodo trying to get away from Shelob.
I literally was thinking the same thing. I'm like, can we be done with this trope of a bunch of little spiders and then medium-sized spiders and then the mama spider at the very end? Like, ugh.
Literally when we were watching, the little ones were coming up and then bigger ones were coming out. I'm like, uh-oh. And then when the big one came out, I'm like, okay, and here is Aragog. Like Aragog has shown up at the party. And then when it was going through the caves and stuff, I'm like, now this is just Lord of the Rings. This is just Frodo trying to run away and eventually getting stuck. Um, anyway, so I felt the same way. I was a little bit creeped out though when he couldn't get the cockpit closed and they're all going up. And then we were watching, he's shooting through the door, and then he powers up the flamethrower and gets them done in 1 second. And my wife Corey is like, I hate stuff like that. Why didn't he just do that at the beginning? Why is he shooting one by one with a blaster if he can just roast them all and
Yeah.
get the door closed right away?
Well, okay, am I wrong in remembering that the big mama spider, didn't she break the windows?
Yes.
Did he fix the windows?
I don't know how, but I guess he did. He said that he could do repairs and so that they could limp along, but he'd only be able to pressurize the cockpit. And I'm like, how's he fixing the glass? But
Yeah, that's what I was confused about. And then the payoff at the end with it being the X-wing pilots who come back and save them, that wasn't a good payoff for me. I felt like that was supposed to be like, oh no way, the X-wing pilots saved them, but I was like, now why would they come back and save them?
so what I thought was going to happen was I actually thought that for them to get out, he was going to have to turn on his transponder and send out a ping, like a distress signal, and give away his location, and the X-Wing pilots would come back. But then they just showed up. I'm like, how did they find him? He fell through like 200 yards of ice or something and hit rock bottom in this big cavern, and they just flew right in, parked their X-Wings, lifted up the cockpits, and then started shooting all the spiders. And none of the spiders went after the X-Wings.
Did we have another Rathtar moment too when it sucked onto the glass?
Yeah, it was like a mini Sarlacc pit / Rathtar mouth Minoc scene
Oh
from.
yeah, mine not too. I thought when the blasting was happening, and I think Abby was the one who said it out loud. She's like, "Is that Boba Fett? Like, is this going to be Boba Fett? Like, he saves the day? That would have been interesting." But anyway, it wasn't.
Yeah. Yeah, so anyway, I mean, I don't really have anything else to say. I think we covered all the main points of the episode. I I think that unless it ties into something later in the season, I think it's going to kind of be one of those episodes that just feels like it's not connected to the rest of the story. I assume that we'll get some sort of continuation next week in chapter 11 because they're just drifting in space. So I think that that story will continue and we should get to the planet and deliver the eggs and hopefully find a covert of Mandalorians. I'm hoping that's what happens. And then the story can pick up from there and we can follow the storylines that we care about, like finding more Mandalorians and can they lead him to the Jedi and can he find a home for the child and what's going on with Moff Gideon and the dark saber and do the Mandalorians want the dark saber because it is a Mandalorian weapon, and then what's going on with Boba Fett. Those are the things I'm interested in, not how many spiders can I shoot with my blaster before
Yeah.
you flamethrower and Frog Lady doing some jacuzzi hot tubbing time.
It's nothing against the TV show. Like, the great thing about The Mandalorian is we can have these one-off episodes where we take a little bit of time and I guess world build in this instance. I feel like this first episode did a lot better job of okay, I actually care about what's happening here. This one I just didn't. But that's the nice thing about, there's still, what, 8 more episodes, 7 more episodes, so we'll have time. But just after this one, it kind of like, huh. After the week we've had, I feel like I was really looking forward to today, and it was a whole lot of nothing.
Yeah, I think it could have been stronger. I think there were elements of character development, but they were, in my opinion, pretty subtle. Nothing that amazing in terms of character development happened. Nothing amazing in terms of story progression happened, and so I just was kind of left feeling like, all right, well, I hope the next week is a little better.
Yeah, that's all we can hope for. Well, and with that, let's end this. Ladies and gentlemen, leave us a comment below. Did you like the episode? Did you like how we are basically now just doing big spider chases in every franchise that we adore? Yeah, let me know.
Leave a comment below on what franchise is still missing a big spider chase that should have one.
Oh, and with that, we will see you all next week for Chapter 11. What's the title? I don't even know.
We won't know until it comes out. But this was Chapter 10, The Passenger. And until next time, I guess we don't have a call sign still. I keep forgetting that.
Keep your socks salty. We're not saying that anymore.
We can't. We can. We can just go back to that.
Keep keep your eggs.
Oh wait, no, because we're doing Mandalorian, we're doing "This is the way," and then you say "I have spoken." So let's read.
Okay.
All right, everybody. So until next time, remember, this is the way.
I have spoken.